The blizzard of 1993.
We just wasn't prepared for this. I didn't think that it would really hit.
It left people stranded without power and with a lot of downtime.
When the blizzard happened, the nurses were like counting up 40 weeks from then because they wanted to know when there was going to be so many babies.
It was a blizzard. 15.1 inches of snow in Knoxville. We don't see events like this.
It was getting dark, we couldn't find the road, and like you said, it was waist-high snow.
This story, because of the impact on so many people, will always be right there at the top of my memory.
33 years ago, East Tennessee was covered in a thick blanket of snow. It was the remnants of a weather system known as the storm of the century. You remember it as March 12th, 1993. That monster bore down on the Gulf Coast, bringing a storm surge, high winds as it made its way up the East Coast. It dumped snow. And here in East Tennessee, it amounted more than inches. It was feet of snow throughout the region. It knocked out power to tens of thousands. It stranded people, and it sent searchers on a frantic hunt for hikers who were stranded in the Smokies. That was the storm of the century. In this episode of Behind the Headlines, we revisit that massive storm and hear firsthand from a reporter who weathered the elements to keep East Tennessee informed. And we also hear from a meteorologist who watched the storm, not from East Tennessee, but from afar, and it led him here eventually to East Tennessee as a meteorologist. We will be meeting both of those gentlemen in just a moment, but first, we begin before the storm. Before the snow started falling, our reporter at that time, Ken Schwall, went out to see how people were preparing. Take a look.
Mayo Garden Center's spring plans have taken a minor turn. They brought out the snow shovels today, the ones they haven't been able to sell in about 5 years. But the big news is on the sign out front. They have sleds. They're just not able to hang on to them. The manager ran out by mid-morning. It's obvious that not everyone in East Tennessee is terrified of a snowstorm. You're not worried about the snow?
No, we'll just stay home and have fun.
Where are you from?
Wisconsin.
I figured. For places like Mayo, snow makes for some good business, and they just love to sell those sleds.
Around here, we don't get snow for every 4 or 5 years, so put it away, probably lose it. Next time it snows, it'll be back.
Passing the state highway department, we saw what looked like a man spraying for bugs. Well, we found out that it wasn't bug killer he was spraying. What does it do?
It keeps ice and snow from sticking. You know, when it'll fall off of them when you hit them.
Why don't you just spray it on the roads?
Well, it don't say it wouldn't work on the roads. They're good.
Meanwhile, people were stopping off at area stores, stocking up on the staples of life. At Kroger in Fountain City, everything was going fast. Lines were predictably long. It was not the place to be for someone in a hurry. But people found ways to occupy their time, either by reading or eating. Employees were working fast and furious, trying to keep up. Even the manager pitched in and bagged some groceries. But then again, so did the customers. It was one of those everybody pitch in times. People just didn't seem to mind. Everyone was in good humor.
If that prediction don't come true, you better hide.
Well, most everyone. Ken Schwall, Action 10 News.
Well, guess what? That prediction came true in a big way. Joining me now, former WBIR reporter Gene Patterson and WBIR chief meteorologist Todd Howell. Guys, thanks so much for being here.
Sure.
Yeah, it brings back memories, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Maybe not necessarily good memories, but...
I'm pretty sure I was probably in that Kroger line with everybody else. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, with that, so where were you on March 12th?
I wasn't here, so it's all up to y'all guys. Just bring us through this thing, you know. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Now, I remember we had my wife and I had a little house on, I forgot the name of the subdivision, but it backed up to Cumberland Estates, off of Western Avenue. And so when the snows, we had loaded up just like everybody else, went out and got the,
got the supplies.
Got the toilet paper, got the milk, got the bread. And so we were there as the snows came in. And at the time, I don't remember exactly what the forecast was, but I don't think it was for what it came. I mean, it was going to be a lot of snow, right?
Right.
So I was home, and the next day, of course, we've got 1.5 feet of snow in front of my house, and I looked, but we had power. Mm-hmm. We never lost. We did not lose cable, any of that, and so I'm on the phone with the station, and there was no way I was going to be able to drive a car out or a car come in. So I literally had to hike out, had my clothes and had a ski suit on. I remember that. And I hiked out of the subdivision up to the Western Avenue, about a mile or so. And a fellow by the name of Sonny Broyles, who worked here for many, many
Great
years,
man.
picked me up in the vehicle there and got me back to the station. So
I was new to WBIR. I was only here 6 months at that point, I believe, and not married at that point. So our news director, Margie Nichols, had flown out to Los Angeles for a conference, and she had asked me if I could stay at her house and watch her dog Kipling for the weekend. Okay, absolutely.
No worries, right?
No worries at all. Yeah. And then the snow started falling, and I get a call from our producer, it's probably 11 o'clock at night, saying, I need you to come in to work. The snow is starting to fall, and I want you to do a sledding safety story. And I'm like, okay, I'm the newbie. I better go in and do the sledding safety at night. So
thinking ahead there.
Someone picked me up, and actually, it was my fiance at the time. He picked me up and brought me into the station, who is now my husband, and brought me into the station, and I was there for days later. We'll get into that, just the impact it had on covering.
Right.
But Todd, as you mentioned, you weren't in East Tennessee at that time.
No. Gosh, I wish I'd have been here. It was a blizzard. It was the storm of the century blizzard. Every
you
meteorologist
guys love these things.
Oh, yeah, every meteorologist love it. I grew up loving snow, so yes, I would have, I think, loved to have been here, but this was an exceptional storm. I was in Starkville, Mississippi, finishing up my last semester of grad school and broadcast meteorology. My wife, Lee, and I, our oldest son, Walker, was 4 months old. He was born in November 1992, and so about 4 months before. So we were married housing, and we got 2 inches of snow. I do remember we went out. I tried to say Walker was only 4 months old. Tried to take him out to play in the snow. I remember the biting cold wind. We did not stay out. We didn't stay out 5 minutes. It was very cold. Even down Mississippi, again, we just got a little bit of snow. But the thing that stood out to me, and we'll get into this coming up, I knew it was a big storm when I'm watching the Weather Channel, of course. And there's a red screen that comes on and says Interstate 55 in South Mississippi is closed near Hattiesburg. And so I knew, when does the interstate in South Mississippi close? Because of snow?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We got a big storm. So that's where I was, and that's what kind of everything evolved after that.
And you came in 1993 and became very aware of how this storm impacted East Tennessee. Give us a snapshot of what we remember, but give us the data of what was the storm of the century.
It was incredible. First of all, so this was an exceptional storm. It was a blizzard. What is a blizzard? Well, you have winds sustained of 35 miles per hour or greater, and you have visibilities a quarter of a mile or less. And that's from the falling snow or blowing snow. So that's the definition of a blizzard. We don't see events like this. So, people, as we saw in the video, flooded the store. There were a lot of doubts. Yeah, there were. And I hear you. We know how East Tennessee is. Yeah, we don't see big snows like that. So no wonder people are probably down. But then, kind of the word got out, and as we got closer, 2 days before we were 71 degrees. So I'm sure folks were wondering, okay, wait a minute. How bad is this really going to be? Because sometimes we've seen events that didn't, pan out. That happens in East Tennessee, but this one certainly did. 15.1 inches of snow in Knoxville, officially at the airport, had drifts 2 to 3 feet, and 5 feet of snow, 60 inches up at Mount LeConte, with drifts to 9 feet. I know we're going to talk more about the impacts of the mountains. These are the stats of this storm, what it produced. And, we never had anything like this. One of the biggest snows on record. It's in the top 5 biggest snowfall events for Knoxville.
Wow.
So, to this day.
To this day. Yeah. In a single day event, it ranks 5th. So we've had some other big ones, and then there was a multi-day event. So here we go. It started out as rain Friday night briefly, and then it quickly changed to snow. And I know folks can go on our website and streaming right here and see some of the past stories. But I even watched Bill Williams, his interview back in 2018 for the 25th anniversary. And Bill was talking about going home, and by 11:30, He said it could barely go. He had to walk up his hill. So it only took a matter of 1 to 2 hours. And people, if you were out, stranded, and here's one of the things that occurred, and I've only experienced it twice. Twice here.
I know where we're going
you know
with
where we're
this.
going. This is the special moment. Thunder snow. Folks, do you remember that? Thunder snow?
I remember it because I was out in the elements covering it. I'm like, what did I
You were
just
doing
hear?
your sledding story.
It's all a blur, but I remember hearing the thunder, and it was snowing, and I did not know what to make of it.
Yeah.
Didn't know it was a thing.
It's incredible. So the only way to get thunder snow, so what is thunder snow? It's just like a thunderstorm. Instead of rain, you get snow. But it's not going to be light. Just like a thunderstorm has heavy rain, thunderstorm has heavy snow. So basically the nuts and bolts, you had this strong energetic disturbance that was rolling southward out of Canada. Deep trough in the jet stream, strong Arctic high pressure that had settled in just before. So everything was coming together just right, kind of like for a perfect storm. And the warm, moist air of the Gulf, all that coming together, boom.
Yep.
You had this bomb cyclone, which is just simply a deep low pressure. As that disturbance rolled southward through the Mississippi Valley, literally, as soon as it hit the Gulf, it exploded. And it was like a hurricane, and it was technically still winter, 10 days before spring. It was like a hurricane in the winter. It was a bomb cyclone. And Robin, you mentioned it had everything. We had feet of snow. We had power outages. We had hurricane force wind gust. We had storm surge. That's why it was kind of like almost hurt. You had storm surge in Florida. There were approximately over 9 tornadoes in Florida. It had everything from all the way from almost Honduras, extending that far south with impacts, all the way up to Quebec and Canada, and all the way up through the Appalachians from Friday, March 12th through Saturday, March 13th, even over into Sunday, March 14th, it extended. So feet of snow in East Tennessee. We were buried. Gene, I'm glad you had power because many people were without power.
I didn't have power, but of course I didn't go home.
Right.
We'll get into that because my days are spent here.
You know, and when you think back to that, and I think you very well described it, normal snows that we get in East Tennessee, you know, they start coming down and you go, oh, look, and you put your finger out there, oh, it's at least a knuckle deep. This one just was, it was a foot deep within hours, right? I mean, it came so quickly.
Right.
And I think that's what probably shocked all of us.
So let's show what you're talking about. This was the after effect of the storm of the century. Take a look.
It's a wet snow, too.
Mother Nature has dropped a tremendous blizzard on us, and we're doing the best we humanly can.
Todd out here.
We just wasn't prepared for this. I didn't think that it would really hit. We've heard it so much in East Tennessee, you just don't get this kind of weather.
And we're doing what we can to deal with it.
Give me your address and so on and so forth. I'll put you on the list. We'll get by to you as soon as we can. The restoration of power time right now is a minimum of 12 hours to most areas.
No power. I've got power, but I lost the cable, which kind of makes it for a boring day.
There's a lot of people out there that can't get no help. We got a four-wheel drive, so we go everywhere. I was sitting at the house, warm, and hearing about all these people having a tough time out here. So I just thought, something to do, make me feel good.
We were all just trying to find a way to make it through, obviously. And Gene, as a reporter, when people are hunkered down at home, we're hitting the ground running, trying to at least in the midst of inches and feet of snow.
Whether it's a blizzard or a tornado or whatever it is, if you're a reporter covering that story, you are running into harm's way. And so there was a lot of that going on. You know, that snowstorm was it was pretty, no question about it. It was gorgeous. It was also very, very dangerous. And I think once as a reporter you get over that sense of, oh, this is so pretty, and you realize, holy smokes, it's really cold and there are people suffering out there. I mean, you realize the gravity of the situation. I was looking at the video, the story just there with Mayor Ash and Chief Keith. We were all pretty young back in those days, weren't we?
In my mind, I still am. The mirror says otherwise. But to clarify, as I had said, I had gotten the call to come into work as I was dog sitting. The dog was taken care of. A neighbor made sure to come over and take. I got it cleared through Margie, who was in California.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
we got
Poor dog was there for 4 days alone.
But you know what? Speaking, I was here days. I was here. I spent 3 nights here, and that is often what happens when we are called into, whether it be a weather event or breaking news situation that is ongoing. We come into it knowing that we are here for the duration. It's not a 9-to-5 job.
And I don't know who did it. It may have been Steve Dean or some of the folks here, but they actually brought in mattresses. I mean, it was like the scene in The Godfather. We literally went to the mattresses.
Clearly.
I think I was here 3 or 4 days, as I recall.
Exactly, and they did the best they could. They brought in food for us. They brought,
right.
but we were out a lot too.
Yes.
I mean, we came in to sleep when we could, eat when we could, but our job was to get out and tell the stories. Are there any moments, and once again, knowing this was 33 years ago, but any moments in your coverage that still stands out to you?
Well, there's numbers of things stand out to me in that it went for a very long time.
Yes.
We were still days and days and days out. We were still covering lack of power to some homes. People were stranded, those kinds of things. I remember one time, and I think I might have been with a photographer named Doug Edlund. And it was cold. I mean, you see some of the shots and there's sunshine and blue skies. It was really, really cold. And I remember we were on the scene when the rescue squad dug these folks out of this house. Literally, they couldn't get out of their house. It was, the drifts had come up on top of it. And they were coming out, and they had not had power for a couple of days. And so they were ready to be rescued. And I remember Doug saying to me, I will never complain about 90-degree temperatures in the summer again. Give me that any day over this. And
until you're in the 90 degrees and you're outside covering the story.
Right.
But it's just an example of the extremes that as reporters that you have to go out and literally and figuratively weather them in order to tell the story. I was like you. I was, the sledding story I think got pushed down a few days because this was not a sledding event initially. But covering the people who were without power, I remember going into Blount County, a family for days had been without power and were basically heating up their water over the stove. So you took trips back in time.
It is funny because people will look back on that period fondly, nostalgically, but the reality is it was really hard times for a lot of people.
It was extremely hard, and it was especially hard for some people particularly. There were up to 200 people in the Smoky Mountains caught off guard by this bomb cyclone. And then it hits, and then there's this frantic effort to find them. One of the stories I did was to go up into a helicopter with the National Guard in search of these hikers who they could find. Well, this is that story from 1993.
He's waving his jacket. I'd say he probably wants to come out. We're going to go in and get him. We just always tell you.
For 3 nights, Jeff Dartman and Derek Bravo were held hostage in the Cherokee National Forest by nearly 5 feet of snow, until today when the Tennessee National Guard swept down to their rescue.
Sunday, we plowed out about 5 miles through waist-deep snow, got to the cars, but they were buried up to the roofs, and we couldn't get into either one of them.
With the 2 campers back to safety, the search goes on for snowbound survivors. The crew spots this car, but there is no sign of anyone, only a trail that does not lead to a person. These trips are just the first of many to come as the Tennessee National Guard crisscrosses the skies looking for campers in both the Cherokee National Park and the Smoky Mountain National Park.
There was a lot of campers. There's an estimate anywhere from up to 200 in the 2 areas of campers that are stranded in there. And of course, those are our immediate need people.
Both Robert Hatch and Roger Redding are survivors.
But we're alive and we're well, we're doing good. And
you can't cheat the mountain. It makes its own rules and you have to abide by them, and I'll respect it, and I won't give up backpacking, but I'll never attempt anything. It was foolish.
So I remember when I was told, oh, guess what your assignment is? You're going up in a helicopter to search for hikers,
Right.
as the National Guard is. And I remember, I'm a cub reporter and whole new experience for me. But it was exciting,
sure.
too. And I get into the helicopter, and I'm next to a crew from CNN, and you realize this is real.
It's a big deal.
This is real. And do you remember, though, just that frantic feeling of there are people in the mountains?
Yes. Well, and we were talking before we started this podcast. A number of us got to do live shots with CNN across the country.
Right.
So that in itself makes you aware that, whoa, this is a really big deal. I'm not just talking to East Tennessee. I'm talking to the entire nation, if not the world, right? Through
Absolutely.
CNN. And so if you know that people, as far away as California, Washington State, or up in New England are interested in what's going on with your piece of the world, that sort of signifies the impact and the importance of it. And there was a lot of that kind of coverage going, and you felt the impact of that, I think.
Yeah, and something that you were very much involved in. And we learned this in short order. Among the dozens and dozens of hikers who were lost in the Smokies, it was a group of students, high school students from a school in Michigan, Cranbrook. And they annually would come down to the Smokies, and I guess it was almost like a survival test for these students. Mm-hmm. Well, they were caught off guard, and there was this frantic search to find these students. Well, they were found, and this is your story of what happened after they were found to some of those students.
One did not have to talk to these young people to know that they'd gone through a terrible ordeal. Tonight, they consider angels to wear drab green. That's the color of the Army choppers which rescued them after the storm. The group from Cranbrook School near Detroit, Michigan entered the mountains more than a week ago as part of an annual school program to build character.
It's my understanding that moral and physical training is definitely part of the curriculum there at the school, where they're expected to take part in some sort of wilderness experience.
None has ever ended like this. Of the 8 hikers transported to UT today, 39-year-old James Woodruff, a chaperone in the group, is in the greatest danger. Tonight, hospital officials list his condition as serious. In North Carolina, it was a different scene, as other members of the group were already reuniting with family members.
Actually, I got really worried at one point. It was getting dark, we couldn't find the road, and, like you said, it was waist-high snow.
I mean, a couple points, I thought maybe we wouldn't get out, but we had great leadership, and we were really prepared for cold weather and everything, but nothing like this.
The children were part of about a dozen hikers recovered from the mountains today by Army helicopters. This group of men went in Friday, knowing snow was coming, but not a blizzard. They woke up Saturday and realized they had to get back to their truck.
There were times everybody had doubts as to how many more times can you pick your legs up. I started getting a cramp in one of my hamstrings, and I knew that, another hour and that'd be it for me. So
the group moved from Bob's Ball to their truck in 3 excruciating hours, at times in waist-deep snow.
We thought about our kids, we thought about our wives, we thought about what's important.
For them, what was important was getting to shelter, and they did. And by Sunday, a rescue chopper had spotted them and dropped a note saying, "We'll get you Monday."
We all started singing tomorrow from the play Annie. We were relieved.
These hikers were lucky. They say it was quite an experience, but not one they'd like to try again.
Can you imagine?
No.
You have to wait until Monday.
No. Take me now. I want out now.
That's an incredible story.
Yeah, and again, I thought on the North Carolina side, the student that talked about great leadership, I think in those situations, you better have good leadership to get you through those kinds of situations, because it's always fun until, somebody gets poked in the eye, right?
Exactly,
and
until it isn't.
And that was certainly the situation there. But thankfully, none of those children, there were frostbite and those kinds of things, but they all survived, and, can tell that story now with some sense of humor, I would hope.
Absolutely. Gene, you've been on this podcast many times. And
are you paying me for this?
The check is in the mail. Trust me, it is. Yeah. But lots of times we're talking about crimes that you covered. Yeah. But as far as weather events, and you've covered many weather events, this has to be among the top.
Easily one of the top stories in terms of weather that you cover. Because, this thing, as I mentioned earlier, it wasn't an overnight story. It was a days, weeks, months. The impacts were being felt even months later because, all these things that happened, you begin to, then you do the whitewash and you go, okay, how could we have done this better? We saw the pictures or the video of Mayor Ash as a young man in the 90s and Phil Keith. They immediately, after this event occurred, began to look at their systems and processes and figured out, okay, what could we have done better, and how could we have done this so that this wouldn't have happened? And I think that happened at every emergency management team across East Tennessee right after that event, because there were so many things that were brand new to these folks that had never happened before, you got through it, but maybe you could have done it better.
And we're going to look at how this storm impacted this community financially and otherwise in a moment. Getting back to the hikers, which was a huge story, but that was a huge story within a huge story, the hikers. We always try to further stories, and a way in which we were able to further a story is to talk to one of those hikers who was wheeled into the hospital. Her name was Danielle Swank, and this was her story that she shared with us.
It was really nice to get out of there.
After a weekend stranded in the snow, 15-year-old Danielle Swank is recovering from frostbite and exposure.
My right foot is, the toes are very purple, or pretty purple, and the doctor said that I'm probably going to lose part of my toes on the right foot, but everything else, and maybe some of the nerves in my hands and my both feet.
Danielle's story begins after she and teacher Mr. Woodruff became separated from the rest of their group. They pushed their way through waist-deep snow and through icy creeks.
My boots, which I had gotten one off the night before, but the other one was just so frozen on I couldn't get off. Mr. Woodruff couldn't get either of his off the night before, but the one I did get off, I couldn't get back on in the morning.
Unable to feel his feet and with blisters on his hands, Danielle said Mr. Woodruff left to find help and the rest of the group. She was concerned when he didn't come back.
I figured that our group just might have been farther away than we anticipated, and that he couldn't make it back. So I spent that night by myself. It was kind of scary. I cried I cried like a bunch, but I got through it.
What Danielle didn't know was that Mr. Woodruff had only made it a half a mile away before falling unconscious. He never reached the rest of the group. But later that afternoon, both were rescued.
I saw an Army helicopter, and I was like waving to that. I was like, and yelling help, but, and they circled past overhead, and I didn't think they saw me. It was a very scary moment.
And that was former reporter Patricia McGeever reporting there. You just said to me as we were watching that story, wouldn't you love to see where those people are today?
Yeah, today, absolutely. I would love to get their reflections on that period of their lives and that situation 30-odd years later.
Yeah, and how has it impacted their lives up to this point? Okay,
yes.
That might be a story that we need to...
I think you guys need to do that.
I think so too, because it was so transformative, if you will, for so many people on so many levels, differently, obviously. But
yeah, and I think anybody watching that story or having experienced the impact of that storm in the Smokies and who love to go hiking and, they oh, wouldn't it be great to get caught in a snowstorm? I think you need to watch some of these stories and understand that, yeah, it'd be sort of fun maybe, but you better be prepared. And I think, I don't know what happened to the school trips after '93, but I bet they were much better prepared afterwards.
Yeah, and once again, that's another thing that we could dig into is, where does that stand now? Because you see the value of what they wanted and did.
Yes. In normal weather conditions, right?
Normal conditions.
Not blizzard conditions.
Exactly. Yeah. And once again, it's all about
it's funny,
prepared.
though, when you as I watch these stories you've put together from our past reporting on it, it really does play like a movie, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, it really, I can see somebody, I'm shocked no one has written a book about that experience from a number of different angles because it really does feel like something that could be turned into something that people would read and watch.
There's so much material.
Yeah.
There's so much material. But you alluded to this earlier. We're just reminiscing and bringing up story after story. But you did talk about how did the county respond after the fact? And weeks after the storm, former reporter Al Clinch did just that. He looked at the cost of the storm on so many levels. This is his story.
Less than a week after the storm of the century pounded Knox County, you have to look around in some places to find any snow. A closer look, though, provides a vivid reminder of the tremendous force of the storm. Debris is still being carried away, some loads a little large for the vehicle. It'll be a long time before many of us forget the second weekend of March 1993. Not only did it present many area residents with real emergency situations, it also pressed many people into weekend action on the job, some working around the clock trying to get things back to normal. For local governments, it meant spending a lot of money.
We do know that on snow removal alone, we spent in excess of $200,000.
Mike Cohen says the city won't have the total cost for a while because employees haven't turned in their time yet. But a tax hike because of the storm in the city or in Knox County doesn't appear likely. Most of the snow removal expenses, 87% plus, will be reimbursed by the state and federal governments. Some money is budgeted for this kind of emergency, and the city has a sizable reserve, too.
We have a fund in excess of $14 million that's basically an emergency fund.
County spokesman John Evans says the county budgets, too, for winter weather problems. His main concern is that the disaster relief from the state and feds is strictly geared for emergency snow removal.
And it's not flexible enough to consider that we had to remove a lot of trees to get to the snow to get the roads clear.
The county is hoping the feds will ease up on the guidelines this time. As for KUB, a conservative estimate of $1 million in storm-related costs. But a spokesman says that's not so much that they can't work it into KUB's financial plan.
Don't you wonder what those costs would equate to today?
Double or triple, maybe?
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I love to watch these stories in this podcast, Robin, because it takes me back in time, to when I was a lot younger, but also you get to see the folks who were parts of those stories. John Evans, Mike Cohen, Al Clinch. Cohen's still around with us. Mm-hmm. John is passed, so is Al, and it's always with fondness that you see these stories, and then it evokes an emotion about what they're talking about, but also about those people. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. I feel the same. That has been one of the many gifts that I've received from this experience of doing this video podcast is going back in time and seeing those people who were part of my formative days, be it here at BIR or outside of this station, and it's a gift.
So I'm waiting to see the photos and video of you with your little Dorothy Hamill
I
haircut.
had the definite Dorothy Hamill cut, and didn't you like I'm still Southern. I'm a Southern gal, but
Southern
boy,
girl,
I had that
nothing wrong with
twang going on, didn't I?
Nothing wrong with Southern voices.
I do remember, though, getting to the point in our coverage, and at this point, the snow was brown.
Yes.
It was gross. And it's like, I just need this to go away. Don't you remember just being exhausted by
No,
it?
because you're right. The afterglow glows quickly and goes away. And it was time for us. It was time for us to go home and be with our families in our own beds. But you know, for those several days that we did it day in, day out, and we were 24 hours, all of us working hard. There's nothing that at the time is more exciting if you're a young reporter than covering a story like that.
I would not change a moment
absolutely
of it.
not.
Absolutely.
Nothing.
Okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to fast forward.
Okay.
30 years from 1993 to 2023. Okay, well, let's count back. Let's go back to 1993. What happened, do you think, 9 months after March 12th, 1993?
Let's see, you've given us a good clue. 9 months.
That's right.
So there was a boom in population, I take it?
There was a definite baby boom. And we caught up with one of those blizzard babies 30 years after he was born. Here's John Becker.
The blizzard of 1993, it left people stranded without power and with a lot of downtime.
When the blizzard happened, the nurses were like counting up 40 weeks from then because they wanted to know when there was going to be so many babies.
A lot of downtime.
We went out, bought the milk and the bread. My brother and his wife came over, we had a deck of cards, and we were ready.
But it was also what was in the cards for the Blevins family that they still talk about.
Doctor was running from room to room.
The Blevins family was one of almost 40 welcoming a new baby 9 months after the storm.
I just have a great reminder. I have a 6'2" reminder, from it.
Their son Daniel is a blizzard baby.
But it was packed, the hospital. What I remember, it was busy. Yeah.
There was 40 babies born that day at UT. And because Jay is just so funny, and the doctor just loved him, he's like, I'm going to make y'all, he said, I'm going to make you famous. I'm going to put you on TV tonight. Well, I'm 25 years old. I've had a new baby. I have no idea what I have just signed myself up for. But I was like, yes, let's get this baby on TV.
They did give out the shirts.
They did give us a shirt that said Lizard Baby.
Channel 10 documented Daniel's birth, and over the years, we checked in with the family who added a daughter, Jessica, all of whom are now all used to the kidding.
With our group chat that we have, if a storm is coming or it's going to be snowing, there's a text that's sent out that's saying, hey, a storm's coming. Remember that 9 months later if you want a baby or not.
For almost 30 years, the family has joked about their blizzard baby, and Daniel himself has found the humor in it.
Well, everyone knows about it. Everyone's about to know about it again. A lot of football coaches and my friends called me Blizzard. So, it's one of those things that I don't particularly bring up in conversation.
Now married, Daniel and his wife Kelsey say they can expect some good-natured needling around this time of year every year.
Every year on this time, this clip reoccurs on Facebook, and so we all share it. He gets so embarrassed, but it's always a good laugh, and now it's a good joke between my family too.
And the couple has their own unique baby story to share, also inspired by a national event. Their daughter Harper was born during the COVID-19 pandemic.
It took a blizzard for my dad to get blessed with me. It took a very bad pandemic for me to get blessed with a child, so.
That's funny.
We had to end it on that because, once again, in situations, there's always going to be the good, the bad, the challenge, but you always hope there is the good that comes out of it. And, on that particular day, there are 40 instances of good blizzard babies.
Well, you asked me about weather coverage that I've, storms, whatever it might be. This story, again, because it lasted so long, because of the impact on so many people, will always be right there at the top of my memory banks. So thank you for helping me remember all of that.
Well, thank you for sharing your memories with us. We appreciate it. I think Todd, go figure, had to go do the weather.
Yeah.
So
sitting there listening, it was like being in a meteorology class, wasn't it? I kept waiting to, can I ask a question there, Professor?
And thunder snow. Thunder snow is like his all-time favorite thing to talk about. But, Gene, thank you.
Okay.
It's always a pleasure. And thank you so much for joining us. We hope you'll join us for another episode of Behind the Headline coming up next week. If you'd like to watch other episodes, you can find them streaming right now on WBIR+. You can also listen on Apple and Spotify. We'll see you next week.